The marble corridors of the Supreme Court echoed with an unusual tension as Justice Amy Coney Barrett took her seat on the bench, her black robe crisp against the polished wood, her expression unreadable behind the iconic lace collar that had become her signature. Before moving forward, please subscribe, like, share. Because the vault never sleeps, and neither does justice. It was a rare special session in the spring of 2025, called not for a case argument but for a congressional oversight hearing, one that had been forced by Representative Jasmine Crockett and her relentless campaign to expose judicial ethics violations in the post-Roe era. The room was packed, clerks, reporters, activists, and a live-stream audience of over 2 million already tuning in on X and YouTube. Crockett stood at the petitioner's lectern, her red blazer sharp, her binder thick with documents, her eyes locked on Barrett with the focus of a trial lawyer who had waited her entire career for this moment. This wasn't just about abortion rights. It was about power, transparency, and whether the highest court in the land could still claim impartiality when its members accepted luxury trips, undisclosed gifts, and influence from billionaire-backed advocacy groups. Justice Barrett cleared her throat, her voice calm but firm, carrying the weight of 7 years on the bench and a lifetime of legal scholarship. Representative Crockett, this court has granted your petition for emergency oversight only because of the gravity of your allegations. But let me be clear, your Reproductive Justice Act of 2025 is a direct assault on federalism, on the Dobbs decision, and on the constitutional balance this institution has upheld for generations. You do not get to rewrite precedent because you disagree with it. The chamber fell silent. A few conservative clerks nodded in approval. A progressive activist in the back clenched her fist. Crockett didn't flinch. With all due respect, Justice Barrett, Crockett began, her Texas drawl steady and deliberate, this isn't about rewriting precedent. It's about restoring trust. When justices accept private jet flights from litigants with cases before the court, when their spouses sit on boards of organizations funding anti-abortion litigation, when clerks draft opinions with input from dark money groups, that's not balance. That's bias wearing a robe. Gasps rippled through the gallery. A Fox News reporter live tweeted, Crockett just accused SCOTUS of corruption in CHAMBIS. The clip was already going viral. Barrett's eyes narrowed, but her tone remained measured, the calm of a justice who had faced down Senate confirmation battles and death threats. Congresswoman, you stand before this court making inflammatory claims without evidence. If you have proof of misconduct, present it. Otherwise, this hearing is over. Crockett smiled not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent 6 months preparing for this exact moment. She opened her binder and slid a 3-page memo across the lectern, stamped in red, Confidential, 5th Circuit Clerk Draft, March 2025. Exhibit A, Your Honor. This is a draft opinion authored by one of your former clerks, now in private practice, sent to a Federalist Society coordinator with ties to the Alliance Defending Freedom. Page 2 outlines strategy to uphold Texas's near-total abortion ban. Page 3. It lists judicial education retreats funded by the same group, retreats attended by 3 sitting justices, including yourself, Justice Barrett. The room erupted, phones buzzed, a CNN camera zoomed in on Barrett's face, and for the first time a flicker of unease crossed her features. This document, Crockett continued, was leaked to my office after a whistleblower, a former clerk, could no longer stay silent. It proves what millions of American women already know. The court that took away their rights isn't impartial, it's influenced. Barrett leaned forward, her voice sharper now. Representative, that document is privileged. How it came into your possession raises serious ethical questions about you. But Crockett was ready. Privileged or protected, because if this court has nothing to hide, why seal the funding sources of judicial conferences? Why redact the guest lists? The American people paid for those planes, those hotels, those dinners. They deserve to know who's paying to educate their justices. A low murmur swept the bench. Justice Kagan shifted in her seat. Justice Jackson whispered something to Justice Sotomayor. Even Chief Justice Roberts looked unsettled. Barrett raised her hand for silence. Order, Congresswoman, you are bordering on contempt. This court does not answer to Congress. We answer to the Constitution. Crockett didn't back down. She pulled out page 2 of the memo and held it up for the cameras. Then let the Constitution speak. This draft cites Dobbs 47 times, but it was written before oral arguments in the Texas case. How is that possible unless someone on the inside was coordinating with outside groups? This isn't deliberation. This is collusion. The gallery exploded. A bailiff shouted for order. Barrett banged her gavel once, twice, 3 times, but the damage was done. The memo was now being screenshotted, shared, and dissected in real time on X. Recess, Barrett declared abruptly. This hearing is in recess for 30 minutes. But as the justices filed out, something unprecedented happened. In the private conference room behind the bench, the justices gathered, no cameras, no public, just 9 of the most powerful people in America. Barrett sat at the head of the table, her hands folded, her face pale. "This is a crisis," Chief Justice Roberts said quietly. "That memo, if authentic, undermines everything." Justice Thomas shook his head. "It's a forgery, has to be." But Justice Gorsuch, usually aligned with the conservative bloc, spoke up. "I was at that retreat. The funding wasn't disclosed. We all assumed it was neutral." Barrett closed her eyes for a moment. She had attended the retreat, a luxury ranch in Montana, all expenses paid. She had justified it as continuing legal education. But now, under Crockett's spotlight, it looked like influence. "We need to address this," she said finally, "not dodge it." Back in the courtroom, Crockett stood at the lectern, fielding questions from reporters during the recess. Her phone buzzed non-stop, AOC Elizabeth Warren, even a moderate Republican senator texting, "You just changed the game." When the justices returned, Barrett did something no one expected. "This court will suspend all abortion-related cases pending an internal ethics review," she announced. "Effective immediately. The clerk's memo will be unsealed in full within 48 hours. The room went dead silent. Then applause from the gallery, from the live-stream chat, from Crockett herself, who allowed a small, stunned smile. "Thank you, Justice Barrett," Crockett said. "This isn't about winning, it's about trust." The fallout was immediate and seismic. Barrett recuse trended worldwide within an hour. The unsealed memo revealed $1.2 million in undisclosed funding to judicial retreats from 2022 2025. 3 justices, including Barrett, voluntarily recused from abortion cases for the term. Congress fast-tracked the Judicial Ethics Reform Act, with bipartisan support. Crockett's Reproductive Justice Act gained 12 new co-sponsors overnight. 3 weeks later, Barrett gave a rare public statement, not in court, but at a legal conference in Chicago. Representative Crockett's evidence was uncomfortable, but necessary. The court must reflect the highest standards, not just in rulings but in appearance. "I have directed my chambers to disclose all gifts, travel, and affiliations going forward. Transparency is not weakness, it is strength." The clip went viral. Conservatives called it a betrayal, progressives called it a miracle. Crockett responded on X. "Not about destroying the court, about saving it. Grateful to Justice Barrett for listening." In the viral Clapback vault, we don't just report history, we dissect how it's made. This wasn't just a hearing, it was a turning point. A black congresswoman from Texas forced the Supreme Court to confront its own shadow. A conservative justice, appointed by Trump, admitted fallibility. A memo, 3 pages, did what decades of protests couldn't. And it all started with one woman, one binder, one moment of courage. Drop a fire if Crockett just rewrote the rules.